Hey there. Hello, how do you do? My name is Harry Wetzel. Thanks for coming. It's the 80s, darling. Yes, it is. 1985, Saturday. It's a matinee day, and I'm between shows at the Winter Garden, Cat's Winter Garden. As you know, I work there. It's a matinee day, and I'm walking between shows. There's many things you can do between shows on a matinee day. Most of them are hang around and wait 2 or 3 hours until the evening show. Yes. Sometimes I go back home. I can do it. Sometimes I go up to Central Park. Sometimes I roam around the neighborhood. Sometimes I just roam around Midtown looking for a bite to eat and sometimes even a sip. So, here it is, Saturday in the afternoon on a sunny afternoon. And you'll never guess who I saw walking up 7th Avenue. I'm walking down 7th Avenue between shows. And go ahead, guess. Exactly, dear listeners, Mr. Dustin Hoffman. Yes, walking up the street, 7th Avenue, with his buddy, Mr. I don't know who. Yes, but they are engaged in a lively conversation and highly animated. And they're walking up the street as I'm walking down the street. And I see them, and I'm coming, and they're coming, and I'm coming this way, and they're coming this way, and we're going to walk right past each other, and I can see them. And there we are. There it is. I can see him. I can see his face clearly as clear as a bell. And I overhear him. I overhear Dustin Hoffman say to his buddy, he says, "Yeah, it's easy. You can do it." That was the fraction of the conversation that I overheard Dustin Hoffman say, "Yeah, it's easy. You can do it." I go, inspirational words from Mr. Dustin Hoffman. Yeah, it's easy. You can do it. You can apply that to anything. And so I did. I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stalk Dustin Hoffman for a little bit. So I meander over to the storefront and I pretend to window shop as I look in the window reflection in the glass and I'm watching Dustin Hoffman. You understand. I was watching Dustin Hoffman walk up the street. So no sooner did I will myself invisible and pretend to window shop and watch Dustin Hoffman in the reflection of the glass. He and his buddy were immediately assaulted by a couple of tourists, a couple of attractive 20-something young women from the Midwest likely, and they assailed him, and I'm stopped, and I'm looking in the window, looking in the glass, and I glance over and I see, and these two young women are so happy to see Dustin Hoffman, who's not as happy to be interrupted by these two young women. But it's the 80s, darling, and they get out their camera. Yes, not a phone, they get out their camera. And the one girl takes a picture of Dustin Hoffman, gloomy, and the pretty young girl from the Midwest, and the gloomy Hollywood star. And then they switch places. And the other girl took a picture of the first girl with a gloomy Hollywood star. And then they finished their transaction, and the girls took off, and Mr. Dustin Hoffman and his buddy, Mr. I don't know who, started walking again, and they resumed their highly animated conversation. Well, about a half a block later, guess what? They were met by yet another pair of tourists. This was a couple. This was a man and a woman. And they wanted their picture with Dustin Hoffman as well. They interrupt Dustin Hoffman and I don't know who. And so there's Dustin stopping. He's not happy. The lady stands next to Dustin Hoffman. She's beaming. I glance over. I'm pretending to window shop. I'm glancing over. And they get a picture. The man gets a picture of Dustin Hoffman and his girlfriend. A picture of Dustin Hoffman in a bad mood, so they can find that keep that in their scrapbook, in their scrapbook forever. Well, here's the thing. Just in the course of about 3 blocks that I was ghost shadowing Dustin Hoffman and his buddy, Mr. I Don't Know Who, and pretending to window shop, in the course of about 3 blocks, I saw them get assailed by tourists 5 times. Same scenario every time. Gloomy star, happy tourist. Well, so now, just as the 5th person got a picture of Dustin Hoffman in a bad mood, I decided that my cloak of invisibility is wearing off. Each time they stop, I have to stop and pull over and look in the window. Now it's an electronics store. Oh, fascinating. Exactly. So I decided that I was losing my invisibility, and I decided, all right, we're not getting anywhere, and neither is Dustin Hoffman. I'm just going to turn around and go back to doing what I was doing, roaming around Midtown, looking for a bite to eat, and maybe even a sip. All right, now here's the thing. I don't think that Dustin Hoffman was intentionally trying to be a jerk or anything. I don't. I just think that this particular day he didn't feel like playing the fame game. Now here's the other thing. He's a celebrity. Well, I've mentioned this before. We don't have royalty in America. We have stars. We have Hollywood stars and rock stars. That is our royalty. And so these celebrities, we worship them sort of. And we feel like we own them a little bit. We feel like they belong to us a little bit. Well, they do, sort of. But here's the thing. They actually belong to who? Themselves. That's right. And they're just trying to go through their day just like everybody else. Imagine how weird it must be to have your every move scrutinized just because you're famous, like I just did regarding Dustin Hoffman. Scrutinized him for blocks like a stalker, trying to stay back, stay invisible, and watch what is he gonna do. What is he gonna do? He's not gonna do anything. He's just somebody like you and me. They're stars. They're people just like us. Well, that's the thing. They're just like us, and all he wanted to do was walk up the street with his buddy, just like everybody else. All right. So now it's Saturday night. Now it's Saturday. I go back. I have my midnight. I have my evening show, and at 10:30 or 11, CT and I get together, and we were going to go out this Saturday night and procure illicit contraband substance. Yes. Yes, we went down. CT had a connection up there on 88th and Amsterdam on the 4th floor. Yes. So we went over there this Saturday night and went up the creaky, gloomy 4th stair walk up into the dank 4th floor hallway with a crummy light in the hallway and no door in the doorway, but a blanket tacked up. Yeah, so CT walked up to the door jamb and knocked on the door jamb. And he said, hello? And we could hear Oye Como Va emanating from the apartment. Yes, by Tito Puente. Yes. And so then eventually a shirtless, gaunt man whose name was Rust, I later found out, entered at the front blanket. And he saw CT and he saw me. He said, "Come on in." And then he looked at me and he said, "You can go down the hallway. Just wait in the TV room." And I looked at CT and CT looked at me and he nodded down the hallway. He said, "You can go wait in the hallway. Just wait in the TV room." So I said, "Okay." And it's this pitch dark hallway. So I go down, squinting through the darkness, walking with my arms out, a sleepwalker or a blind man's buff or even the Frankenstein monster. Right. And I eventually saw some meager light spilling out onto the floor. Yes. And so then I walked in. I heard some racket from the TV, some soft racket, and I go into, here it is, a filthy room, the TV room. And there's a TV over there, and much to my dismay, there's a huge comfy chair in front of it, and a little kid is sitting in the comfy chair watching the cop show, and he looks over at me. I look over at him. He looks at me for a moment, then he ignores me again. He goes back to the cop show. So I'm standing in the TV room, and I look for a place to sit down, and there's a sofa over here, and I go to take a step towards it, and much to my dismay, there is someone sleeping on the sofa. An old guy sitting there, lying there on the sofa, asleep. So I'm like, all right. And I turn around, I look, there's a comfy chair, but it is loaded with pizza boxes and leftover Chinese takeout cartons. Yes. As my eyes adjust to the dim light in the room, I begin to see that this place is just filthy. It's squalor in here. It's littered with litter and newspapers and pizza boxes and leftover takeout Chinese cartons all over the place. Then the little kid looks over at me. Then he gets off his chair and he starts walking towards me. And he's walking toward me and he looks like he's going to start crying. And I'm terrified of this little kid coming at me. And he's walking towards me and he's getting up and he keeps on going right by me. And he goes into the pitch dark hallway. And I go, well, I don't know. And then the television suddenly gets 10 times louder because suddenly there's a commercial for Carvel ice cream cake. Carvel. And Mr. Carvel himself does the narrating on all the commercials. Come on down to Carvel. We got ice cream cakes. We got ice cream cakes shaped like a whale. It's fantastic. You'll love it. And the commercial is so loud that the guy on the sofa wakes up. And I look over at him and he looks at me and he sits up on the sofa. And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and am I staring at the guy? And I look away. I didn't mean to stare at the guy. And I glance over and he reaches down and he gets a pack of cigarettes and he puts a cigarette in his mouth, lights the cigarette. And he's sitting there on the sofa, ignoring me, smoking a cigarette. Then the little kid comes back in the room, ignores me and goes back and sits in his comfy chair. And he's watching the cop show again. I'm standing there, I'm going, where the fuck is CT? How long does a drug transaction take? So I'm standing there, and now I'm pretending to watch the cop show with the cigarette smoking guy and the little kid. And we're standing around, and I'm looking around this room, and I realize there's a big hole in the plaster on the wall. And I'm a set designer, and I was looking at that distressed wall, this beautifully distressed wall with this broken piece of plaster, the way that the lath is and the way that the plaster coming through it is. And I was looking at that. I said, how do you paint that? Yes, it looked like a perfectly distressed wall. And I'm like, yeah, if I was to paint this, this is a set, how would I paint that? And I made a point to look at the details so that if I ever wanted to paint something I could remember that looked like a damaged plaster wall, I would remember that. I'm just standing there and we're watching the cop show. And then eventually, thank heavens, CT pokes his head through the stringy blankets and he says, "Oh, is this your favorite TV show? You want to stay and watch?" And I turned to him and I said, "No, I've already seen this one. The butler did it. We can go." And I pushed and nudged him out into the pitch dark hallway. So we walked into the dank hallway in the apartment building and down the creaky, gloomy fourth floor walk down and out into the New York night. And suddenly it was much brighter because now we had cocaine. Excuse me. Well, so we're going to get together with CT's friend, Kooky Crazy Janie, and we're going to go over to her place and we're going to consume this illicit substance. Yes. So we go down to Kooky Crazy Janie's place. She lives over here on 74th or 73rd, something like that. And we begin to have a little party, the three of us. There's me, CT, and Kooky Crazy Janie, and me. Yes. Then, so Kooky Crazy Janie would always put on some random porn tape on her VCR with the sound turned down. And then she would play Prince or show tunes or something like that. So we're listening to Prince and watching this random porn tape as we do illicit substances and drink booze and smoke reefer. Well, I was the only one who gave a damn about smoking reefer. CT and Kooky Crazy Janie did not care at all about smoking dope. Right. So we snorted that illicit substance into the wee hours of the morning. Yes. And sometimes we stayed up very late. And I told you, we went down to Staten Island one bright morning. Yeah, that was fantastic. Well, the great thing about partying in your own neighborhood, essentially, because CT and Kooky Crazy Janie lived on the Upper West Side just in the 70s. And I lived up at 98th Street. So we all know that I walked home from 10th Street a bunch of times. Take the long walk all the way up Broadway. Sure. Well, when you're just a mere 20 blocks away, that walk is nothing. It's fantastic. So at the end of a late night, it's getting light over in the eastern sky, and CT and Kooky Crazy Janie and I finish up our evening's revelry, and all I got to do is walk a short walk home. So I stop at the local deli and get a beer for the walk home. Of course I do. Yes. Now, it's fantastic. I love to take a nice leisurely walk, and it's only 20 minutes as the sun is coming up. It's beautiful. All right. So what do you do if you're me? You get home, and since you're living in your 20s, you go home and you get a vague amount of sleep. And then you get up and you go do it again, all over again the next night. Why? Because you can. You're in your 20s, you're made out of rubber and steel. Yes. So, I was part of a proud tradition of drunks on Broadway. Yes, at least I usually waited till work was over to start the drinking. Okay, so now, did you ever play Blind Man's Buff? Yes. Well, don't do it when you're drunk. And I'll tell you about that next time. All right. Share this out. Please make a comment. I need to hear what you have to say. Thank you for coming with me on this journey, and I will talk to you next time.